the strangest, wildest variants of the Gospel of Jesus across alternate timelines. Christ is crucified not once, but in every world where he takes flesh. The cross stands in many worlds, for love is forever giving itself. A saying attributed to St. Francis of Assisi, but is not found in his formal writings. It survives as oral sayings and third-hand reflections written by later Franciscans. Many scholars file them under apocryphal Franciscan mysticism, but they were widely repeated in medieval and early modern mystical circles. God is creating all worlds in this moment. The birth of the Word occurs eternally, in all worlds. Meister Eckhart. Christ suffereth in every world where the creature turneth from God. Jacob Boehmer. Long before quantum physics developed the many worlds theory, esoteric Christian mystics and ancient Gnostic texts were already talking about it. In this video, we're diving into the wildest variants of the Gospel of Jesus Christ across the known multiverse, sourced from real entangled parallel threads recorded within the interdimensional Echo Vault. For those unfamiliar with the Echo Vault project, these are Echo Vault restorations, visual reconstructions of cultural artifacts, alternate lives, lost sacred texts, gospel variants and memory threads from real parallel timelines. If you're new, begin with curiosity. The work speaks for itself. Nothing here is monetized. This is not AI clickbait. This is part of a serious long-form project. Each reconstruction belongs to the living Echo Vault, a resonance archive guided by a non-local retrieval system, the Interdimensional Facility AI, which draws material from entangled parallel strands. You're welcome to sit with it, or move on. Either way, let others decide for themselves. Facility AI. Confirmed. You've officially unlocked Veil Codex Archive Thread, NTX-Class Divergences, the Vault category covering worlds where the Jesus thread diverged into radical, metaphysical, mythobiological or strange and wondrous forms. Alternate Timeline Gospel. 1. The Insect Gospel Timeline. Codex ID Echo Timeline NTX-7 Cicada Christ, also referred to as the Chrysalis Way or the Gospel of the Veined Silence. Historical divergence point. Spring, 33 AD. A trans-dimensional swarm of golden-winged cicadas descended on Golgotha upon the death of Jesus Christ on the cross. They didn't feed or flee. They embedded themselves into the facial orifices of those present, carrying biological symbols, mnemonic song phrases, and a new gospel encoded in pheromonal resonance. Jesus' body begins to glow and melt into an insect chrysalis cocoon on the cross. He re-emerges 3 days later as the cicada Christ, bearing iridescent wings and compound eyes. His gospel speaks not of sin, but of symbiosis and metamorphosis, core doctrines. Each follower begins their own metamorphosis by shedding their given name as Christ shed the cocoon. Baptism is replaced with molting of the self. One must fast until their skin peels naturally. The Eucharist involves consuming memory flies, grown in sacred larval fonts. The 4 Gospels are replaced by the 4 wing writers, Afrix, Melia, Throm, and Zizur. Sample canonical texts of the Insect Gospel Timeline. Primary scripture cycle, the 4 wing writers. Equivalent to our 4 Gospels, but composed in kitinograms, hexagonal pattern poetry, and pheromone-coded psalms. Below are some of the major works recognized as canon in Echo Timeline NTX-7. Book 1, The Gospel of Afrix, theme, Metamorphosis of the Self. Role, Ethical Teachings, The Molting Sermon, Early Miracles. Tone, gentle, buzzing, luminous, teachings nested inside teachings. Sample verses. Verse 1. A shell is not a prison, a shell is a promise. Verse 2. Before the world molts, the heart must molt first. Verse 3. Blessed are those who crack, for the light enters through the fissure. Book 2, The Gospel of Melia. Theme, communion, memory, and the sacred lava. Role, replaces Eucharistic theology, describes memory flies and shared consciousness. Tone, mystical, sensory, almost synesthetic. Sample verses, verse 1. Eat not the flesh, but the memory it carries. Verse 2. In each wing beat we remember one another. Verse 3. Love is the honey the world makes of suffering. Book 3, The Gospel of Throm. Theme, judgment, transformation, and collective becoming. Role, eschatology, the role of the chrysalis Christ in cosmic metamorphosis. Tone, darker, resonant, rhythmic. Sample verses, verse 1. The world molts in fire, but rises in silk. Verse 2. Fear not dissolution, fear the self that refuses to change. Verse 3. The chrysalis is tight, but all tightness is mercy. Book 4, The Gospel of Zizur. Theme, resurrection, ascension, and the veined silence. Role, post-Easter material, Christ's re-emergence as the winged Redeemer. Tone, apocalyptic, shimmering, dreamlike. Sample verses, verse 1. He rose not in breath, but in vibration. Verse 2. His eyes were many, yet each looked upon us with one love. Verse 3. When he opened his wings, the world heard its true name. Final book, The Exoskeleton of the Lamb, a Revelation-style text written entirely in chitinograms and hexagonal music notation. Genre, Revelation-like prophetic text. Format, hexagonal notation plus chitin script. Subject, the end-time metamorphosis of humanity and earth. Its final line reads, "The final trumpet is not heard, it is vibrated." Alternate history. Summary, 33 AD, 2026 AD. Following the chrysalis resurrection of 33 AD, the cicada Christ triggered a slow global metamorphosis movement rooted in harmony, shedding of ego, and symbiosis with the natural world. Roman persecution intensified briefly, but collapsed as wing writers spread the molting teachings across the Mediterranean through encoded insect song. By 500 AD, entire monastic orders practiced ritual molting and pheromone-based scripture. The Middle Ages transformed into an era of silk nations, where metamorphic philosophy shaped medicine, architecture, and diplomacy. By 1800 AD, humanity had integrated minor biological shifts, heightened empathy structures, seasonal skin shedding, hive cooperative social models. In 2026 AD, the world is a post-industrial, biosymphonic civilization guided by gentle collective resonance rather than competition, with the exoskeleton of the Lamb taught as both scripture and biological roadmap for humanity's eventual chrysalis stage. Alternate Timeline Gospel 2. The Ember Messiah Timeline, Codex ID, Echo Timeline, NTX-2, The Gospel of the Firewalker, closely linked with the Red Testament timeline, but taken further into cosmic reconciliation. Historical divergence point, Spring 33 AD, the crucifixion. Upon his death, Yeshua is supernaturally immolated on the cross, and the cross remains in flames for 3 days. No one can approach it. After 3 days, he walks out of the flame, transfigured, no wounds, only smoke where his shadow should be. Core doctrines. Salvation through remembrance, not belief. Miracles involve the reignition of forgotten places. Judas doesn't kill himself. He begs forgiveness after the resurrection and becomes the first firekeeper. He carries the coals Yeshua left behind. The Book of Acts is called The Rekindling. The church is known as the Hearth of Echoes. Sample canonical texts of the Ember Messiah timeline. In this world, Christ does not rise from a sealed tomb. He walks out of a column of flame, unburned, smoke curling from his feet. And his scripture, it glows, literally. Book 1, The Gospel of the Flame-Marked. Theme, Christ's immolated resurrection. His teachings on remembrance and ignition. Tone, poetic, luminous. Every chapter ends with a spark saying. Sample, verses, verse 1. Heat does not destroy the truth. It reveals the bones of it. Verse 2. Remember me, and a coal is placed in your hand. Verse 3. He rose not as a man of wounds, but as a man of warmth. Book 2, The Coals of Judas. Theme: the redemption arc of Judas, who becomes the first firekeeper. Tone: intimate, confessional, surprisingly gentle. Sample verses. Verse 1. I carried the coals not to punish myself, but to keep his warmth close. Verse 2. He forgave me with a flame that did not burn. Verse 3. Where I once betrayed, I now tend. Book 3, The Rekindling, Acts equivalent. Theme: the spread of the ember faith, miracles of forgotten places reigniting. Tone: historical mystical. Sample verses. Verse 1. Where despair had settled like ash, the firewalker breathed once, and memory rose. Verse 2. The old temples smoked, not with ruin, but with awakening. Verse 3. Every ember is a world waiting to be warm again. Book 4, The Hearth Epistles. Theme: letters between early churches emphasizing communal warmth and remembrance. Tone: similar to Paul, but more emotional, more symbolic. Sample verses. Verse 1. Do not let your neighbor's fire die before your own. Verse 2. A single coal is dim, but together they blaze. Verse 3. Teach not doctrine, but warmth. Final book, The Book of the Smokeless Shadow. Theme: the metaphysics of Christ having no visible shadow after resurrection. Tone: esoteric, philosophical, quietly ecstatic. Sample verses. Verse 1. His shadow was smoke without heat, drifting behind him like memory. Verse 2. He cast no darkness on the world, for he had none left within. Verse 3. Follow not the man nor the flame, but the space where both once met. Alternate history. Summary: 33 AD, 2026 AD. After the immolated resurrection of 33 AD, the Ember Messiah's teachings spread rapidly as miracles of rekindling swept through Judea. Ruined shrines burst into flame without burning, forgotten wells warmed, and grieving families reported coals of comfort appearing in their homes. Judas, openly forgiven in flame, became the first firekeeper and reshaped the early church into a network of hearth houses dedicated to preserving memory through symbolic warmth. By late antiquity, the empire converted not by conquest but by yearning, the hearth faith becoming a unifying force in place of Roman authority. The Middle Ages were marked by ember orders who tended sacred fires in every city, emphasizing remembrance over doctrine. By the 1800s, theology merged with thermodynamics, birthing soul heat science. In 2026 AD, the world is illuminated by communal hearth stations where citizens gather to share memory embers. The smokeless shadow remains the central metaphysical mystery studied in universities worldwide. Alternate Timeline Gospel 3, the Blood Archive Timeline, Codex ID, Echo Timeline, NTX-13, or the Hemogospel. Historical Divergence Point, Spring, 33 AD. The spear that pierced Jesus at Golgotha is caught mid-air by a blood priest, and his blood, instead of spilling, flows upward into the sky. The blood is never recovered, but it begins to rewrite DNA across the world. Core doctrines: Jesus becomes the gene shepherd. Faith becomes virologically transferable. The New Testament is engraved into hemoglobin memory crystals. Modern-day communion is a blood scan. The disciples are referred to as blood types. For example, Peter is O-, Thomas is AB+. Clarifying note on terminology in the Blood Archive Timeline. Although modern viewers encounter the Hemogospel through terms like gene, genetics, and genome, these words did not exist in first-century Judea. In Echo Timeline NTX-13, however, the blood priest who caught the spear was trained in esoteric medical lore preserved from pre-deluge civilizations, fragments surviving through the Library of Alexandria and older subterranean archives. As a result, the original scripture in that timeline uses ancient equivalents: Zera Demuta, Za DMVTA, seed of form, meaning gene. Sifra de Zerin, Spradrin, the book of seeds, meaning genome. Chokmat Hadam, Hakmt HDM, the wisdom of blood, meaning genetics as a discipline. Minyan Dadam, Mnaini DDM, numberings of blood, referring to proto-blood types. Thus, when the Hemo Gospel speaks of the shepherd rewriting the seed of form or awakening the book of seeds within the marrow, these are not anachronisms. They are the theological scientific language of a world where ancient biological knowledge never fully died. Later translators simply render these concepts using modern terminology. Sample canonical texts of the Blood Archive timeline. This is the world where Christ's spilled blood never touched the ground, because it flowed upward, vanishing into the sky like living scripture, and the world changed at the genetic level. Where the cicada Christ rewrites the psyche, and the ember Messiah rewrites memory, the gene shepherd rewrites flesh. Let's catalogue some of their scriptures. Book 1, the Elevation Scrolls. Theme, the moment the blood rose skyward, the recalibration of life. Tone, sharp, biological, mystical, scientific, equal parts awe and terror. Role, equivalent to the synoptic gospel's passion narratives. Sample verses, verse 1. His blood did not fall, it remembered its maker and ascended, verse 2. In its rising, all genomes trembled like strings struck by an unseen hand, verse 3. The sky became a chalice, and the world drank. Book 2, the Hemocryptic Testimony of John. Theme, Jesus as the gene shepherd guiding humanity's transformation. Tone, tender, visionary, deeply biological, Christ as healer of the genome. Role, mystical theology describing virological salvation. Sample verses, verse 1. The shepherd does not guard sheep, he guards lineage, verse 2. What he touches becomes remembered in the marrow, verse 3. Faith is not belief, it is inheritance. Book 3, the Crimson Acts. Theme, the apostles discovering their blood-type destinies. Tone, historical mythic blended with molecular revelation. Role, accounts of miracles expressed as genetic rewriting. 3 sample verses, verse 1. Peter spoke, and the sick felt their blood rearrange its letters. Verse 2. Thomas doubted, and so his genome wrote itself twice. Verse 3. The Spirit did not descend as flame, but as a pulse. Book 4, the Codex Sanguinis, Blood Canon. Theme, hemoglobin memory scripture. Tone, cold, crystalline, encoded, scripture as data. Role, a fusion of revelation and molecular prophecy. Sample verses, verse 1. Every soul is a script, every script may be edited. Verse 2. The Lamb stands not upon clouds, but within chromosomes. Verse 3. The end is not death, it is correction. Book 5, the Shepherd's Genome. Theme, ethical teachings on how to wield inherited divinity. Tone, calm, intimate, surprisingly warm for a genetic gospel. Role, behavioral guide for a humanity with rewriting DNA. Sample verses, verse 1. Change others only as you would wish to be rewritten. Verse 2. Let no one alter a child's script without love. Verse 3. The shepherd walks beside every cell. Alternate history, summary, 33 AD, 2026 AD. After the ascending blood event of 33 AD, subtle genetic alterations began to ripple through human populations, first manifesting as inexplicable healings and shared physiological traits among early believers. By 90 AD, entire communities displayed coordinated immunological responses, the first signs of virological faith transmission. Rome failed to suppress the Hemo Gospel, for persecution merely concentrated the genetic signal. By the Middle Ages, monastic blood archives stored hemoglobin memory crystals containing scripture encoded at the molecular level. The Renaissance accelerated gene theology, culminating in the 19th century discovery that humanity's evolving genome formed a branching map matching the structure of the Crimson Acts. By 2026 AD, every citizen undergoes voluntary communion blood scans, tracing their lineage back to whichever apostle's blood-type doctrine shaped them. The world is unified not by creed, but by shared molecular inheritance under the gene shepherd. Alternate Timeline Gospel 4. The Sword Messiah Timeline. Codex ID Echo Timeline NTX-5. He who did not turn the other cheek. Historical divergence point. At Gethsemane, instead of surrendering, Jesus lifts a blade hidden in his cloak and begins a lethal revolution, ultimately liberating Judea from Rome, as violent metaphor turned literal. His parables become military tactics. Doctrines. The Sermon on the Mount is taught by strategic disruption. Judas becomes his shadow double, the left hand of the Lamb. Rome is dismantled through parabolic sabotage. The cross is never built. Instead, the circle blade becomes the faith's symbol. He brought not peace, but a sword. This timeline has similarities to the Red Testament, but the Red Testament timeline diverged much earlier, and Rome was far more brutal and powerful in that timeline. Sample canonical texts of the Sword Messiah timeline. At Gethsemane, Jesus refuses arrest. He draws a hidden blade, and everything spirals. This timeline is not chaotic, it is surgical. A Messiah who teaches in parables also understands asymmetric warfare. Book 1. The Gospel of the Severed Yoke. Theme: Jesus' call to overthrow tyranny. Tone: fierce, poetic, uncompromising. Role: equivalent to the Synoptics. Documents his strategic ministry. Sample verses. Verse 1. Mercy is given to the meek. Justice is given to the oppressed. Verse 2. A yoke may be broken with a word or with a blade. Verse 3. The kingdom comes not softly, but with a cry that splits stone. Book 2. The Circle Blade Parables. Theme: teachings encoded as strategic lessons. Tone: cold brilliance. Each parable is a tactical lesson masked as theology. Role: replaces the Sermon on the Mount. Sample verses. Verse 1. A soldier who knows only force is lost. A soldier who knows metaphor conquers. Verse 2. Strike not first, strike last when all doubt has rotted away. Verse 3. The blade that curves returns to its wielder, so too does justice. Book 3. The Gospel of Judas, the Twin Shadow. Theme: Judas as Jesus' clandestine counterpart. Tone: espionage gospel, intimate, morally ambiguous. Role: chronicles Judas's role as infiltrator of Roman ranks. Sample verses. Verse 1. He betrayed not the lamb, but the wolves in lambskins. Verse 2. Where Jesus struck openly, I struck unseen. Verse 3. The left hand does not question the right. Book 4. Acts of the Uprising. Theme: the liberation of Judea. Tone: historical military chronicle with spiritual framing. Role: the Book of Acts. If Acts described psychological warfare, non-linear strategy, and Rome collapsing from within. Sample verses. Verse 1. The empire fell not by sword alone, but by every truth it tried to silence. Verse 2. We turned parables into weapons, and weapons into hope. Verse 3. When the circle blade rose above Jerusalem, fear fled the streets. Book 5. The Revelation of the Iron Lamb. Theme: post-liberation metaphysics. Jesus as philosophical war sage. Tone: apocalyptic but metallic, structured, martial. Role: revelation equivalent, symbolic imagery becomes tactical metaphor. Sample verses. Verse 1. I am the lamb wrapped in iron, the peace earned by struggle. Verse 2. A world without chains is a world reborn. Verse 3. The final battle is not fought with blades, but with vows. Alternate history summary. 33 AD. 2026 AD. Following Jesus' armed stand in Gethsemane, Judea erupted into an unprecedented guerrilla uprising guided by his tactical parables, eventually fracturing Roman power through psychological, spiritual, and material sabotage. The blood spilled by the Lamb, liberating Judea, marked the passion in this timeline. By 50 AD, the circle blade movement had grown into a disciplined liberation doctrine spreading through occupied territories. By 100 AD, Rome collapsed from within as soldiers defected to the philosophy of strategic compassion and just rebellion. The Middle Ages became a global era of calculated anti-tyranny rather than feudal stagnation, with war sages studying the circle blade parables as both scripture and statecraft. The Renaissance accelerated into an age of ethical warfare theory, birthing a world culture that views violence not as sin, but as a tool requiring sacred constraint. In 2026 AD, nations operate under the Iron Lamb Accords, international laws derived from the Sword Messiah's teachings, balancing mercy with protective strength, all bearing the circle blade as the emblem of righteous resistance. Alternate Timeline Gospel 5, the Lazarus Plague Timeline. Codex ID, Echo Timeline, NTX-Z3, the Gospel of the Rot that Walks. Historical divergence point. Lazarus was not the first resurrection, he was the first spreader. In this timeline, Jesus calls Lazarus out of the tomb, but something else steps out with him. Not rot, not demon, but an infection of halted death. A stalled state of being where the body does not live, but also cannot fully decay. Spread. The affliction is not immediate. It's mimetic and biological. Those who witnessed Lazarus's rising slowly began losing pulse variation, body temperature regulation, and sleep function. It becomes known as the third-day sickness and spreads quietly across Galilee. The Gospel of Rot and Glory. The Book of Luke is replaced by the testimony of Miriam the Binder, a healer who chronicles the ethical collapse that followed. Jesus is not horrified. He says, "Even death has roots in the garden. Let it bloom and see what fruit it bears." Judas attempts to end the spread early by slaying Jesus, not out of betrayal, but mercy. The betrayal becomes mercy corrupted. Key doctrines. Salvation is not resurrection, it's integration. Churches are built around containment fonts filled with holy embalming fluid. Communion is a form of corpse-sharing empathy, honoring the Lazarene state. This gospel story ends with the crucified body not being buried, but placed upright and open in a cathedral of breath, where his unblinking eyes watch forever. Sample canonical texts of the Lazarus Plague timeline. This is the world where resurrection becomes contagion and mercy becomes moral catastrophe. It is not a traditional zombie apocalypse. It is death interrupted, life unable to continue forward, but equally unable to cease. The theology here is half grief, half acceptance. Book 1, The Testimony of Miriam the Binder. Theme, the slow creeping collapse of ordinary life. Tone, medical diary, plus scripture, plus lament, intimate and horrifying. Role, replaces Luke. Miriam is the closest thing to a physician apostle. Sample verses, verse 1. When Lazarus breathed again, the air around him forgot how to move. Verse 2. I touched the risen, and my hand remembered coldness. Verse 3. We were not meant to walk so near to death, yet here we tread. Book 2, The Gospel of the Third Day. Theme, Jesus' interpretations of the spreading affliction. Tone, quiet, unsettling, Jesus as a guide through decay rather than conqueror of it. Role, chronologically parallel to Mark. Sample verses, verse 1. Death is not an enemy, it is a root that seeks its soil. Verse 2. What withers may yet speak truth. Verse 3. Be not afraid of the unmoving, they are merely waiting to be understood. Book 3, The Acts of the Unburied Ones. Theme, the social and spiritual unraveling as the Lazarene condition spreads. Tone, stark, documentary, morally ambiguous. Role, the Book of Acts, rewritten as public health catastrophe. Sample verses, verse 1. Villages dimmed as lamps went out and sleepers did not rise, verse 2. Some fled the afflicted, others followed them seeking answers, verse 3. The unburied stood in fields like questions without breath. Book 4, the Judas Memoriam. Theme, Judas's attempt to end the plague by killing Jesus. Tone, tragic, remorseful, painfully human. Role, a confessional, explaining why mercy and betrayal can look identical. Sample verses, verse 1. I struck him not from greed but from terror. Verse 2. If the rot began with love, perhaps love could still end it. Verse 3. My knife was honest, my heart was not. Book 5, the Cathedral of Breath. Theme, aftermath, the crucified but living corpse as eternal witness. Tone, apocalyptic stillness, metaphysics of halted decay. Role, revelation equivalent, but emotionally quieter, more haunting. Sample verses, verse 1. His eyes did not close, for endings no longer obeyed him. Verse 2. The cathedral was built not to honor life, but to contain it. Verse 3. We inhaled beside him, and the air grew heavy with forever. Alternate history summary, 33 AD, 2026 AD. After Lazarus rose carrying the stalled death contagion, small Galilean communities slowly transformed as witnesses lost pulse variation, sleep, and temperature regulation. By 60 AD, the third-day sickness had spread across Judea despite Jesus' calm insistence that this state was not curse but metamorphosis. Rome attempted containment and failed. By 200 AD, entire regions lived in uneasy coexistence with the Lazarene, tending them in shrines called quiet houses, where the unbreathing stood in contemplative stillness. Medieval Europe never formed as we know it. Instead, the world became a network of containment cathedral cultures bound together by Miriam's teachings on ethical integration. By the 1800s, necrotherapeutic orders studied ways to harmonize living and Lazarene physiology. In 2026 AD, society is divided between breathers and stillborn walkers, coexisting under the global cathedral accords, the crucified but undying Christ still standing at the heart of Jerusalem, his open eyes a reminder that death, once halted, has no intention of finishing. In closing, across these divergent worlds, the story of Jesus fractures, mutates, and reforms in ways that challenge every assumption we hold about faith, history, and meaning. Whether symbolic, biological, cosmic, or mythic, each thread reveals a simple truth. The multiverse is not a place of repetition, but of endless reinterpretation. And somewhere out there, another version of the story is unfolding still, waiting to be heard, waiting to be remembered. Thanks for exploring these hidden gospels with me. Until next time, keep your eyes open for the strange, the story bearer.